So I wanted to review what we had talked about last time. So we had our first session about the new Google Analytics 4 2 weeks ago, and we spent the time talking about how to install the Google or the global site tag is what they refer to it. And that's essentially connecting your new Google Analytics 4 property with your MyLO site. So let's review that once more, and then we're going to talk about reports. So I'm starting off already with my analytics account set up. If this is, somebody's first time setting it up, then it's kind of a more straightforward process. But let's say you are starting out like most folks where you already have a UA property that you're working with. So I'm going to open that one up and start from that step. So, whoops. You'll probably get the same warnings as I do. It will probably say, you need to switch over to the new GA4, but you're going to come down to the admin screen. And I don't know why my computer's being a little bit slow right now. And since you'll probably already have an account and, like I said, UA property set up, you just want to go straight to create property. And the nice thing about this is it sets us on the pathway so we don't have to guess from here on out. Once you get to this step, you're just filling out the appropriate boxes. So I've done this several times. I'm just going to name that just what my MyLO site is. You can put your league name, just something that is nice and easy to see since we will see it across your analytics dashboard. The reporting time zone and currency are selected by default, and we can go next. And these business details are going to help Google Analytics better understand your business. So it won't affect your reporting, but if there is any benchmark reporting, which I have not seen in the new Google Analytics 4, it might affect that data there. But just pick which is closest to your, what you think your league is up to. And we click next. For the business objectives, this is just going to help you build your reports up. You will be able to make changes to which objectives you choose. You can also just get a baseline so that it gives you a piece of each of these. And then we go to create. So once we hit create, we are taken straight to the data stream portion, which is like the data collection. This is the portion that is new with Google Analytics 4. It's similar, though, to kind of the steps we have taken previously with the UA properties. So we choose our platform, which is web. And this is where we want to either type in, or if you have your URL handy, just copy that and paste it in. And make sure that you remove the HTTPS portion since it's selected over on the left. And then the stream name, you could say my website, you could say my demo site, whatever. It could be the same thing that we just named the property. And then the enhanced measurement is really awesome. This is, again, another thing that Google Analytics 4 does, where Universal Analytics did it sometimes, but not as well. These are going to be the events that are measured within a session that are not just a page view. So analytics is typically just the page views. That's the data that we're seeing all collected. But this is going in more detail and telling us exactly the type of event that was triggered. So we would create that stream. And here we see the web stream details. And then immediately after that, we're presented with the installation instructions. And since each webmaster is taking care of this themselves, you're going to choose install manually. And if you've done this before, this probably looks familiar because this is kind of the same exact setup as far as the text that we used with the UA connection. So I have that copied. Bring over my MyLO window and just visit your homepage of the site that you're trying to connect, since we are going to edit a draft of that. And then we scroll all the way down to advanced settings. And then under the Google Analytics tracking code, I know I have several already, but I'm just going to squeeze one more. And usually you probably won't have that issue. If you are working with a UA property that you still have connected, you can do as I did and just plop that right on top. And we're going to go straight down to the bottom. We want to publish so that we are guaranteed that connection is truly made, and we save. I left the analytics tab open since we may or may not see the connection quite quickly. But when I come back here, I'm going to close the installation instructions, close the web stream details, and then I'm dropped back where I left off at step 4 for data collection. So I click next. It just lets me know that my data collection is pending. I am not able to see what's under there. There we go. Continue to home is at the very bottom. And then it just sends you here to your home dashboard. This is the question that you had, Liz. I think that since you have a UA property in this account, and maybe Google Analytics is going even further to also identify that the URLs you have in each property are the same. Maybe that's why they're asking the question. And the biggest benefit is that if you have, beefed up your UA account with certain settings, maybe you identified audiences or different customizations like that, that is where this would benefit. And I believe it would bring over some, maybe not all, because it's not a perfect translation between UA and GA4 property settings. So if you do get this question and you're just ready to be done with it, you can just say no and save that so you're done there. Because the goal is that we want to have the GA4 property set up independently. The UA property still can be connected, but we don't want the UA property to be responsible for porting over data to the new one. So I'm going to let this, I guess, sit for a little bit, because after some time, this notice does give us a bit more of a successful update. It will say that data collection is active or something along those lines. And then since I'm still on the demo site, it would eventually tell me as well that there's one user in the last 30 minutes, or at least one. So it's pretty simple to make the connection. Were there any questions there?
Amaris?
Yes.
If there are 2 of us that are both administrators on our website,
Mhm.
do we both need to go through the process of installing the code?
Just one of you.
Okay, so one of us did that, not me.
Okay.
And when I went in to look at it before this, up on top, it has the big banner saying, install GA4.
Okay, so it sounds like they created the new property and maybe haven't given you the access to it yet. So that can be done if they visit so if they're looking at the GA4 property, they visit the admin screen. They can either give you account access management, which would give you access to any property within that account, or property access management, and that would just be access to that specific property. So I'm assuming they probably wouldn't mind either or, and the steps are the same. Whichever one you choose, it will bring up this menu. It'll tell you your current users and their roles. When you click add, you'll click on add users, and then you can add multiple folks separated by a comma. And by default, the checkbox is going to notify them by email. And then there's several different roles. Um, if if you had access to be able to make changes to the property before, you probably had at least editor access and maybe
Mhm.
administrator. But yeah, as it's as easy as adding in the email, choosing the role, and then scroll back up to add.
So I can see some of the analytics, so I assume it's just not the newer version.
Yeah, it sounds like you're probably only accessing the old UA version of property. Oh, whoops. I did
Thank
not
you.
want to save. Yeah. Um, Sorry, I just want to delete that. I did not mean to add that person. Okay. Any other questions before we jump into kind of just traveling the dashboard and the reports? Okay. So let's actually get to a property that is connected. Maybe before we start, I'm going to go into full screen just so we can get a bigger, nicer picture or look at the screen here. So the all accounts menu, if you aren't familiar, is the way to travel around to your different either analytics accounts or properties. Um, if you are lucky, then you don't have a lot to have to rifle through. Um, And then when you are switching between ones, sorry, I just wanted to show a quick example. We saw that with UA properties, you have to select the specific view. And typically, most UA properties only have the all website data view set up. But when we're talking about a GA4 property, you don't have to select the view. So I just clicked on the property. I just want to point out that difference if you're traveling between the different types of properties. You will just have to make one extra click when you're looking at UA types. So I'm landing on the home screen for my demo site GA4 property. We start out with kind of a quick look at the user's report of the last 90 days, a quick look at users in the last 30 minutes. Recently access will be filled in if you have been traveling around your analytics dashboard. And then these suggested for you are based on what's popular in Google and then what you have been looking at. And then these kind of go on and they're a quick look at the actual reports that, you'll get to rifle through in the report section. And then insights and recommendations, I think is something that was available in UA, but this definitely seems a little more customizable. Um, these are going to help you take a deeper dive into your data, I guess, to try and compare or keep an eye on, if anomalies happen. Um, you can use suggested custom insights, or you can come down to create your own. Um, And it seems pretty easy to build as well, since it gives you a pretty good idea of um, what it is that you can be looking at. And so this is definitely not necessary to set up the custom insights, but it will beef up the way that you're analyzing your data. And then if you do set up a condition here, then you would want to name that and optionally have email notifications sent out about it. Otherwise, if you just have the manage notifications field empty, then it will just show up on your reports or on your dashboard as we were seeing, rather than by email as well. And then I believe over time, if even if you don't create any yourself or, add suggested ones, then Google Analytics, the intelligence starts to build those over time based on what you're doing in the dashboard and your data. We can also access the insights from the right side, and this is across the entire dashboard if we're looking at reports or here at the home dashboard or screen. Okay, so let's jump into reports. So a lot of it is similar as far as the types of reports, I guess, that we see. The report snapshot is kind of similar layout to what we had with UA. We get the reports kind of sub menu over on the left-hand side once we click on reports. Under report snapshot, we have real time. Life cycle includes acquisition, engagement, monetization, and retention. Retention might be a new one. And then user data, that is all chunked together. So user attributes like demographics, and then tech as well. So from the report snapshot, you can start kind of comparing your data from here. You can add a comparison here at the top nav or over off to the right. And comparisons, when we look at it in what it was in UA, it's like segments. So if you wanted to compare all of your users against a certain portion, like, based on browser, the demographics, we won't have really any data to go off of since we don't have that enabled. But any of this other information to go based off of if you wanted to really compare and see what all users are looking like against a certain segment. And I don't have too much data here, but that's okay. Then going on because this little toolbar is across every single report that we're going to go through. You have the share this report button. You can share the link or you can download the file. And I think the share link is, yeah, just an analytics link. So folks would have to have access to the property first. And I think if you choose to download the file, you have options of different formats. So insights again, and then you can customize the report. This is essentially what were the tiles that we're seeing laid out. For a lot of the analytics, and sorry, I'm just going to go back. So monetization, I just wanted to point out, like that is a reporting feature that we're going to see a lot in Google Analytics, but it may not be relevant to us in our league sites. So, that's one way that you can customize your reports if you just didn't want to see that report, but you still wanted to have it available in case. Okay, so that's the report snapshot. As you go down, this page, it's essentially a quick look into, again, every single report that you have down below. And so that's obviously why they call it a snapshot. So I'm going to jump right into real time. Oh, awesome. So it had my geographical information as well. It obviously would be much fuller, but it's great to be able to see that it would give us a map out and the number and the device used. I'm going to go on to acquisition. So acquisition is talking about how those folks were picked up and brought to your site. And again, this is a breakdown of the reporting under acquisition. So user acquisition is talking about the new users. When it's a new user's very first time visiting your site, how was it that they were acquired? So this is a quick look into the user acquisition. And then down here, we're talking about the sessions, the number of sessions, that day, how were they acquired, or where was it that they were acquired from? And then we could go to the traffic acquisition. And then I guess I didn't point out the filter. This is similar to the comparison. Um, so I think it will actually filter out your data rather than setting up a new data set to compare it next to. So a little bit different, but as far as the segments that you can choose from or dimensions you can choose from, they're the same there. And then, like I said, user acquisition, we're just seeing the same breakdown, but we get to see where they are coming from as first-time users. I am going to just quickly switch over to the MyLO one. Sorry. It's probably easier if we actually have a little bit more data to see. There we go. So that's a little more helpful. So not only because in the last one we were only seeing direct. Now we see organic search, direct, referral, organic social, and email. And these are just automatically detected. So nowhere is there that we have to provide these channels. And with this report, you can't go further in, but let's check out engagement. I think acquisition is helpful, but engagement definitely gives you a lot of information about how folks are once they're on your site, how they're interacting. And I think that's usually pretty important. And so we get a quick overview. The average engagement time, let's see, does it give us? Okay, so for the time period selected, I believe is just based on the time period we have selected up in the top, whoops, in the top right corner. Why is that not working? There we go, that over there. And so just based on the average user or active users over that time. And then same thing, users in the last 30 minutes. It's just kind of similar reports, but presented in a different way depending on, the overarching subject there. But let's go into from here the events report, since this is really helpful to see beyond folks looking at a page, what is it that they're doing on that page? And this is giving us a snapshot into that. So we get to see the different events. I don't know if it gives us a quick, yeah, it doesn't give us their definitions. For the most part, they're pretty obvious by name, but you can also find the help documentation to see what each event is. But if you want to see more about that event, you can click through on these to be able to open up that report.
What happens when you click on the three dots to the right of it when you're in the list of them?
Oh, let me go back there. I have to go back to events.
Thank you.
Yeah. The three dots. I'm not sure which ones. Oh, I see. Okay. Let's click on that. Mark as conversion. Great question, because that is something I wanted to talk about. So let's talk about conversions quickly before we mark it. So conversions are, I think by default, going to look like this. They're usually not set up by default, and essentially, it's just what you deem as a successful conversion. They're you can base them all. They're all based from your events, and you can actually go to. So, like we saw, the events report. We can go and mark it from here. And then you can also, I just wanted to show another place in the admin screen, and we'll come back to the events report. But in the admin screen, if you wanted to mark your events as conversions, you can do it here as well. So just enable whichever one, like file download might be one.
What's a conversion?
It is eventually going to build your report, but it's like a goal. And that's what it was in UA properties. They identified them as goals. And essentially it was just, it could be anything. You naming what you think a successful, session would be. What would that involve? That would be your conversion. One that I used in a previous UA property just for testing was like folks that have remained on the site for 2 minutes or longer or 5 minutes or longer. That is maybe not so necessary of a conversion now that we have user engagement reports in GA4. But you can just be quite flexible with what a conversion would be. But the good thing is that you have the ability to just start off with the events that are already predefined, and you can say that should be a conversion. Like, for example, form submit, I will actually leave that as a conversion. And let's jump back. When we mark an event as a conversion, I don't think it's immediate to show up on the conversions report, but let's check that. Okay, yeah, it may. I would imagine it's going back like it is retroactive, but it may or may not be. But that is definitely not necessary to mark any of them as conversions because you would still see the event data. But if you are hoping to see, and I can also drop in what Google Analytics says about conversions, but like one example that they provided was if you see that folks have, let's see, if you can see a report where folks have viewed a YouTube video, and I don't know if that event is already enabled here. No, I don't. But I guess let's say if folks are downloading, we saw file download. If they're downloading a file and then that same month they're submitting a form, that might be a conversion. And I am not sure if you're able to identify specific forms that might have to deal with tokens in MyLO. I did not have a chance to play around with that.
Maurice,
Yes.
what's the advantage of doing a conversion over just viewing it here?
For us, I guess it's not as huge. Again, if monetization and conversions, those are, having to deal with folks or groups that are accepting purchases, and we are just not in that. So yeah, I get where the conversions may not be necessary, and the events could just suffice and be enough for you to get that data that you're looking for.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I'll show off how, again, we can customize what we see here, the reporting options. We can get rid of conversions, we can get rid of monetization, but I'll go through each of these so we can all see what it looks like. So I'm going to move on to pages and screens. This is essentially just the most popular page paths across the site. I will be honest, I'm not sure what the screen class refers to, but definitely the page path is everything after, you know, what you have provided as the main URL for your property.
404, that's not a good one.
It is not a good one. And then landing page, quite similar, is where are folks most landing to for the first time, rather than just an overall kind of popular vote. And we might see similar to what we saw in the previous report. And if I didn't say it already, landing page, pages and screens and events, I think those are some of my top choices for reports that they just give a good overview of what's going on your site. And then monetization, like I said, I'm going to go just quickly through it. I don't think there will be any data because we just don't have any of that set up. Yeah. There's absolutely zero. So let's skip the rest of that. Since the overview is empty, I know the rest of it will be. So on to retention. This I definitely don't remember seeing. I mean, it might have been in a different way, presented differently in UA, but this is a nice clean look at your new and returning users. And then user retention by cohort. I actually don't know what they mean by that. Percentage of new user cohort on charted date who return each day. Note, this metric is a look forward view and will only calculate if there's enough data available. I'm not exactly sure, but it sounds like it's more of a projection. Yeah, I might have to come back to you with more information on cohort, but it definitely gives you a broader look at how new and returning users are engaging. Well, that's not good. So yeah, we get to see a quick look at our user retention. Let's jump down to, I'm going to close life cycle. We're going to jump down to user attributes now. This one will give us a look at country, often city, and then they also have age and gender, but we won't have any age and gender data since that is only to be collected when you've enabled Google Signals, and we don't have that. And so kind of similar to what we had seen previously, we have users in the last 30 minutes, but we have them broken down geographically. Okay, so gender, age, and interest, we don't collect that because again, that's through like the advertising Google Signals options. And we get a breakdown of language as well. The demographic details will just break down what we just saw. Yeah, so by country, or you get to choose the other dimensions or metrics that were listed on the overview. And then tech tells us the device, the platform, the operating system. Oh, wow. 100% of our users this past month were web, which is surprising to me. Okay.
What other ones would, I mean, by web? What does that mean by web? It's a website.
I think it does. Yeah, I think it just means by that. My initial thought was thinking desktop, but no, it is just by web. Yeah, we get to see a further breakdown. They all are web, but we get to see the device category. And let's see if you go to tech details, or yeah, we have device category down here. So we can open that up to the larger report. And from, if I open this one and I say, oh shoot, I didn't actually want to see the device category, I can swap it and almost as if I'm looking at one of the reports that I would have clicked over to from overview. And then one last thing. So like I said, if the report options here aren't serving you, you can go down to library and we get collections. It takes a little bit to load. The collections here are what we are given in our reporting like kind of submenu. So I'm going to skip the business objectives right now, but you'll notice if you scroll past that, you have life cycle and user. So that's what we see for our reports. I can edit the collection if it will edit. Oh, there we go. Sorry. There we go. I can I? Yeah, I can rename it if there's something more relevant to you. You can, that's the nice thing about this GA4 dashboard. It's way more customizable. I think with all of these, no, you can't change the titles of the others. But what I wanted to show is that I can just remove an entire topic. So I removed monetization. If you were looking to just, like we were talking about, just remove one report, but not the entire topic, we just click the corresponding X. And if you had a topic that sounded great, but you wanted to rearrange the actual overview, and the overview is what encapsulates the reports underneath it, then you can change out that overview and add other, detailed reports or overview reports. But I am just going to do, like I said, I removed the conversions report and then we removed the monetization overview or topic. And we'll save that. And once you save it, it doesn't kick you back automatically. So you have to go back. And again, it's going to take a little bit to load. Oh, and I guess that went straight to being published. It's kind of similar to MyLO where you have the ability to save, but it's not yet published, but it looks like that published. Yeah, because over on the left, you'll see that I have acquisition, engagement, and retention. No longer have monetization, and then engagement no longer has conversions report. So you can make those changes. And then coming back to business objectives, remember, this is what we selected when we set up the property, but we can edit this as well. And when it first gets dropped into your new property, it's unpublished. So you're not going to see it over on the left. But once you edit the collection, or actually, you don't even have to edit, you go straight to published, then you would see business objectives as an or a topic like these. And then within there, you would see generate leads, examine user behavior, and demographics. And each one of those has a report or more underneath it. So you have the control over what you see in these here. Report, snapshot, and real time will always be there. I'll jump back to the report snapshot. Do we have any questions?
So, Maurice, so lifecycle will already show up under report snapshot and real time in our analytics.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. And under life cycle, you'll see what I had seen before I made any changes: acquisition, engagement, monetization, and retention. And Jan.
So I know in the old the UA one you could drill down, and I would do that so I could just look at data from the US because I was getting a lot of random things from China, and I wanted to get rid of that. So how would you drill down and just look at the hits from US?
You can add filters. Let's see. I'm trying to think which report would be best. So you have the option. It depends on how aggressively, I guess would be the word, how aggressively you want to filter. Do you want to filter the data from the very beginning so that you're not even collecting it? Or do you want to collect it and then only in your reporting see specific segments?
Yeah, I kind of just want to rule out all that stuff. That's not real stuff. Anything that's not from the US, I don't really care who's looking at it.
Okay.
It doesn't count.
It could be international, folks,
Yeah,
folks that
but
are
you're not going to
living
get
in the
much of
US.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, but if you travel, when I spent time in Germany for a month, I'm hitting it. I'm doing my
That's
work.
okay. Yeah, I'm not missing a lot of people that way.
Well,
I just
I'll show you both. So, the way to filter it out from just your reports, you can add the filter to exclude geography. So, or just include US. That might be the easiest way to do it. Why doesn't it? There we go.
there you go.
And we would just include that. And this would just, you would have to do this per report if you did it this way. So if you wanted to do it where it's just not collecting any traffic coming in from outside of the US, you would go to your admin screen. Where is it? Data settings and then data filters.
Mm.
So create filter. No. I thought that it was going to be a little bit more flexible. Internal traffic. I'm not sure. No.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like the data filters are a little bit more rigid, which makes sense. So it sounds like the report filter will probably be the only option there. You might be able to, let's see, I haven't played around with audiences. No, that might be based on kind of an event. Let's see, create a custom audience. Maybe. Yeah, I'm not too sure. Maybe I'll have to play around with this, but this might be a way to do it so that you don't have to set it up every single time.
Mm.
Yeah, because with the report filter, every time you look at a different report, I do believe you have to add that filter in again.
If you make a custom report, like you used to be able to in UA, and save them, is there a way to do that as well here?
I think so. Back in the library, because I haven't played around with the reports, but they do have that down below. Takes a minute to load. There we go. Come on. Okay. I'm going to just try and edit one, see what options it gives us. Okay. Yeah, so you can. You can edit an existing one. Let's see what that, well, I don't want to actually save any changes. Ah, perfect. So you can save changes to the current report or save it as a new report. So that's great. I would then recommend just editing an existing one. And then just as we did earlier, add that dimension in and apply. And then save. And I would imagine, well, I guess we could probably go through the steps, because I would imagine the report you'll probably only be able to access here in the library, but let's actually test that. Come on. It's a little slow for me here. There we go. Okay. So let's just go with that as the example. Just, whoops, traffic from the United States. And save as a new report. Let's just say US traffic acquisition. Okay, so it is saved in the library. Let's head on back. Yeah, so great question. And that is, I feel, a little easier than custom report creation was in UA. So, oh, awesome. Okay. Any other questions?
Oh,
So,
oh, go ahead, whoever.
it's Lynette. So those reports that you've got there, those are kind of things that analytics has already generated for us.
Yes, so it is based on the collections up here.
Okay. So
Mhm.
we're brand new to this, so.
Yeah, so when you start in, as we were creating the property, we were asked our business objectives. So that's where this came from. And then by default, every new analytics account will have the life cycle and the user, collections. And each one of those collections is what builds up these reports down below.
Okay, thank you.
And then Liz.
I was just going to say, Jan, I think you signed off before I made a request.
Oh,
I think you do a nice report for your board. And I was wondering if, maybe not today, but in a future one, you'd be willing to show us what you find useful to show to your board.
Okay. Right now, they don't exist since we're going to this new GA one, so I need some time to set that up.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
That would be really awesome. Yeah, I appreciate that idea, Liz. And that would you let me know when you're ready for that, Jan, because I'll be I'll be willing to pass the mic.
Our board only meets 4 times a year, so I don't do reports all that often, but coming back to them the way I set them up, being able to access them again is always great.
Mm-hmm.
Jan, this is Barb Scott. I just want to echo Liz. That was a great idea, Liz. But I also would like to request that maybe you could show us what you already are doing with Google Analytics, the old one, because we're going to be pulling data, historical data, and I've never pulled any data from my board. So I'd like to see what you're showing them using Google Analytics currently.
Okay. Yeah, I've got PDFs of the last board meeting reports, so I can send those. Where do you want them, Amaris? You want me to?
What do you think? Would you be okay with sharing them in the Google group? That might be a little bit of overload for folks that aren't, trying to set up GA4. Maybe I can just, I'm trying to think.
I think they're just asking to look at them and see what I'm reporting. Like, okay. I report the best the best page and I report the best news article, the ones that have gotten the most hits. That's always fun because the other people write those articles, so they get a little
morale boost too.
Positive feedback that when people are really enjoy what they put out there.
Okay, well, yeah, maybe let's just do it maybe like for another session too. Like I can just review them and maybe we talk about them next session.
I'll send them
that might be the
memories
easiest
and
way.
you can look at them. Yeah.
Yeah, and then
maybe we could ask questions on how to get them if we don't know how to get them.
Yeah, we can go over that too.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I would definitely be interested in Jan's reports.
Okay.
I would too. And I wonder if for the people who went this time and last time, they might just be the ones interested. Maybe we could just send them to that, or we.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we'll make sure that all recordings, we want to make sure that they're visible, but yeah, especially next ones, if we can make it happen for next one, I think that folks will really be happy because I think there has been question about what do we do with our old data? Do we need it? How do we get it? So
yeah, I'm really probably not going to be home for the next one.
We can save it.
Yeah.
You let me know. Because I think it'll be helpful to have you there when we're reviewing your reports.
But Jan, if you could share those reports with Annemarie and Annemarie could share them to these users, at least these users, then we could maybe start developing our questions. We could go see if we could figure it out ourselves, or if our board wants those things or whatever, without Jan's involvement at that point. If you could just share the reports, if that's fairly easy.
And I think I can pull a list of all of you from the Zoom meeting, so that should be easy enough to just get to us. Because with the last session that we had, and I did a little office hours wrap up, I got 1 or 2 messages from folks that were like, I don't know what this is. And so I don't want to overload folks that just aren't ready for it, or, not getting into this side of things, because it is totally optional for MyLO folks to have Google Analytics. But yeah, so I will make sure that I have a list of all of your emails, and then whenever you're ready with those PDFs, Jan, I'll send those out.
Yeah, because, I think Barb mentioned it, but even just knowing what to save from our old stuff is a little difficult for those of us who don't really use analytics that much. From the UA.
Right. Yeah, because it's like, do you save it all? What segments do you save? Yeah, it is a lot. And maybe I'll try and scour the internet to see what folks recommend. Because sometimes it's hard to figure it out on our own. But yeah, we'll save that, I guess, maybe for not this next session, but the next one. For next session, I'm not sure if we want to keep talking about Google Analytics, or maybe we just skip it for this next one and save it for the following.
Well, as long as everybody's ready for July. I guess they can turn to you individually if they aren't ready.
Right. Yeah. And I'll make sure that I make that known. I think I may send out another email similar to the one we sent out earlier this week, where it did go out to all signed up MyLO webmasters, just so that because we know sometimes that the Google group doesn't always get to everybody. I want to make sure that everyone knows if you're using Google Analytics, it's happening.
So all of this information will be at the June 30th session.
For Jan's reports, it won't be at the June 30th session. It will be for, I guess that would be July 14th.
Okay.
Yeah. So did anybody have any last questions? Okay. So, yeah, we may talk about GA a little bit more next time, but it sounds like we'll save it for July. And thank you guys for joining. I will make sure that this recording is up and out as soon as possible.
Thank you.
All righty,
Thank you
folks.
very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Maurice.
No problem. Thanks. I'll see you all next
Thank
time.
you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.